Hi and welcome to Royal Tutorials. I'm Kelsey and this is the early modern era. So we're 1450 to 1750, and what's new in this era is that people over here in Afro-Eurasia moved to the Americas. So that hasn't really been happening before. Environmentally, the great dying of Native Americans happens. So Europeans, when they came over to the Americas, they brought European diseases with them that Native Americans didn't have immunity to. So a bunch of Native Americans died, and it was tragic. There was a population shift of Europeans toward the Americas, and those were in the settler colonies. So Europeans moved to the Americas for a fresh start in the colonies, trying to make a new life for themselves. And the population of Africa also shifted to the Americas in the sugar colonies and other colonies where they were having African American slaves. So here are some Europeans moving to America and conquering it. Basically, this is the population shift I was talking about. And then over here we have some more people going to the Americas. That's not what I wanted. Okay, so politically, there's two different kinds of European empires. There's a republic and an absolutist empire, which is more of a monarchy kind of idea. So the Dutch and English were republics, while the French, Portuguese, and Spanish were absolutist, where they had a supreme ruler. The European Empire, or the Russian Empire, centered in Moscow. So it grew during the early modern era. It hadn't really been big on the power scene yet, and it expanded across Siberia and the North Asian steppes, and they were mostly fur traders expanding it. And there were strong Russian military conquests, so they built a strong military and conquered nearby lands. The Mughal Empire, or Mughal, that united Muslims and Hindus in one empire. The two famous emperors from the Mughal Empire were Akbar, who was more of a peaceful leader, and he didn't make Hindus convert to Islam. He respected their Hinduism as their religion, while Aurangzeb forced Islam onto the Hindus, so he made people convert. The Qing dynasty took over Central Eurasia, so China was really expanding during this time period, and it had some great explorations by sea in the post-classical era and then into early modern. And then the Ottoman Turkic warrior groups were the ones who led the Islamic world. Those were in Turkey and just Western Middle East. So here we've got where they are, these Islamic Turkic warrior groups. They're all over here. So these are the different Muslim lands. Here's the Mughal Empire, that's in India, the Safavid, and Ottoman. So China expanded under the Qing dynasty. This is either Aurangzeb or Akbar, and this is the other one, I forget. So economic was a big change in this time period. The Columbian Exchange occurred. So the Columbian Exchange was, let me pull it up. It's this idea where there's an exchange between North America and Europe. So North America is exporting it's new crops that Europeans have never had before to Europe. Mainly elite Europeans are buying those, and then the Europeans are exporting some of their goods over to North America for trade. Okay. Let me go back. So, in the colonies of sugar, or the sugar colonies, there's a ton of slavery. The slaves were the main source of agricultural labor, and the sugar was a very valuable commodity at the time. So, it was being sent to the North American settler colonies and back to Europe. The Spanish controlled Aztec and Inca lands. The Spanish were the main conquerors down there. So they enforced commercial agriculture and silver and gold mining. And so down here, if you can follow down there, China became a silver drain because the emperor would only let its people pay their taxes in silver. So everyone in China needed silver to pay their taxes. So all of the silver would be exported to China because there was such a high demand for it. Potosi, which is a place in Bolivia, was the source of the silver. It was a giant silver mine. So Russia, like I said before, it expanded east, looking for furs, which were referred to as soft gold. The Indian Ocean had a commercial network that was just greatly expanded and intensified during this era. We had seen that in the post-classical as well. A trading post empire was a new concept. So rather than conquering land as all the other empires we've seen have, just like China and Russia were doing during the time, these European trading post empires were controlling and taxing trading routes rather than controlling and taxing land. So that's a big concept. The Tokugawa shogunate is in Japan. That was the last period of the traditional Japanese political system, which was a military dictatorship. So here's the Columbian Exchange again. Over here we have some slaves working for probably some Spaniards over here in the colonies. Maybe they're Native Americans, I don't know. This is triangular trade. So this is including Africa in the Columbian Exchange kind of idea. So the colonies are giving sugar, tobacco, and cotton to Europe, which they're farming in the Americas. Europe is then sending textiles, rum, and manufactured goods to Africa, and Africa sends slaves to the Americas to work to make the sugar, tobacco, and cotton to Europe, on and on and on. Okay, cultural. So Sikhism is a new religion in this time that is a blending of Islam and Hinduism. It's still a major religion today. The European Enlightenment occurred, so that was an intellectual and philosophical movement where Europeans were enlightened is a good word for it. It was a whole period of thinking and philosophy and stuff like that. The Protestant Reformation occurred in the Christian Church, or the Catholic Church. So Martin Luther was a member of the Roman Catholic Church, and he split from it because he saw corruption in it. He posted, here I can get a picture of him. He posted his 95 Theses on the church saying, this is what's wrong with the church, with the Catholic Church. So he formed Protestantism and gained a bunch of followers. And then Spanish conquerors forced Christianity onto the native population. So we have that going on here. So the Christian population greatly increased because so many Native Americans were included into it. Okay, social. So slavery was occurring in the sugar, tobacco, and cotton industries, mostly in the colonies, and that was a racial slavery. So Africans were directly being targeted as slaves, which wasn't really present before in any powerful empire because, like in the Roman Empire with slavery, they were all of European descent. The Columbian Exchange occurred, like I was talking about. The slaves were in absolutely terrible conditions on the ships across the Atlantic. There's a picture there. This is how they were stacked into the ships, crossing the Atlantic Ocean in these old boats. It was no bueno. So the Protestant Reformation occurred and that enforced that women are meant only for domestic life. So while the Protestants split from the Catholic Church because of corruption, they didn't necessarily create like an egalitarian church or anything like that. And then a mestizo, Creole, mulatto, and peninsulare, those populations all became distinct in the Americas. So basically what's happening there is Europeans come to the Americas and they have children with Native Americans or slaves, and so their children are part of these new social classes based on race. So if you're Spanish born in the colonies, you have the highest power. If you're a Spaniard but you're born in Latin America, next highest, and so on. So thanks for watching, and I hope that was helpful.